get interested in motor racing, Tim?
Well, it was by default, really. It was sort of back in the days. There was a guy called Paul Alder, and he had a BMW 2002 in Craven Mile, or WD&HO Wells. My father used to work for them, and they decided to get into motor racing, so they got him via Paul Alder. So I ended up I think the first meeting was out at Oran Park, by memory, I went to. No idea what year it was.
I'm just negotiating
driving.
a bit of fog here.
Yeah, sorry. I'm guys, if I sound like I'm all over the place, it's because I'm driving along in the thickest fog you've ever seen on the way into Wollongong. And I'm on the inside lane, which I don't like much. Because there's always some guy's going to be stopped somewhere and you've got to be careful. So it's all fun. Mark's getting a shot out the window to give you a bit of a look. Yeah, motor racing. Well, I suppose I was pretty blind to motor racing, about as much as this fog, I think, when I got into it. It was through a guy called Paul Alder, as I said, who drove a BMW 2002. Sorry about that. This guy's just decided to drive half the speed of everyone else. And anyway, so we went out to Oran Park, I remember that day, and I thought, gee, this is cool. Little do I know, all these years later I'd be making videos or bringing back some history from that era of my life. I was only a young guy. I was probably 12 or 13 when I got started in it, going out to the circuits. I absolutely thought I was spoiled because I loved Amaroo and Oran Park, and I've been to all the circuits in Australia at the time, over the years that was. But I always loved those circuits because you could see everything. You knew what was going on in a long distance race. It was easy to follow, and as much as I love Eastern Creek and all the people out there, it's one of those circuits where, I don't know, you just can't see everything. You don't know what they're doing, and you just see them whiz down the straight and disappear around the back, and that's it, and you hang around for the next lap. Totally different atmosphere for me, but that's not to knock Eastern Creek. All the drivers love the circuit. It's a purpose-built circuit. But so was Amaroo Park in its days. It was built for the spectators, as I see it. But Oran Park was my favourite because they had some speed. And the people who knew Oran Park in those days, coming onto the pit straight down that back bit and up the hill was just spectacular. You could see how hard they were really going. So yeah, that's how I got into it. And of course in those days we had the sports sedans. And as a young guy, before I got into the Group C stuff, I loved the sports sedans. I really did. And I remember Jim Richards bringing out the Richards Mustang. And I thought, this guy's something else. And it was an unbelievable car. And as the years went on, we had Frank Gardner driving the Corvair. That in the Tom Player colours, I remember that, number 6 I think it was, and that was an amazing car. That they had the handicap it, and I remember they used to start at half a lap behind everybody else. You'd still win by half a lap in a 6-lap race. That was how fast it was, you know, probably a bit more. And then went through all that era, but Alan Grice came along, and it changed everything. He included everybody. If you wanted to go and support Alan Grice, mate, he included you. I suppose I was the sponsor's son. But I don't know, I just struck it off with him, and he was a terrific person because he gave everybody who was interested in Alan Grice a look into what he was all about. So I found that interesting. And then the A9X days, well, they were special. There's not a lot of good footage around of that. I'm desperate to find 1977, 78, 79 ATCC, all of them, any of them. Anybody out there got some, let me know. Please send it, we'll send you the tape back. But the world should see that era, that was amazing. Unfortunately, there's not a lot of that around. Yeah. But anyway, that's how I got involved. And then as time went on, I learnt more about it. And well, I was very lucky because in those days, all the top motor racing drivers had time for their fans. It's amazing. I always remember in the pits, after the day's events, didn't matter who won, everybody got around, got together and had a talk, and everyone would say hello to you. There wasn't any bad ones around. I mean, old grumpy Alan Moffat, yeah, sometimes, but that kind of made it fun, because I always wanted to get on with him. In the end, Super 100 got to know him. And that's the beautiful thing, and a lot better than what I did back then anyway. And then there's guys like Fred Gibson, who I didn't really know, because he always was the enemy.
Yeah.
If that makes sense. Not an enemy, but, you know, great guy. But you know, we want to win everything, which is Gricey, and then went on to Jim Richards. It's so nice that all these years later I could get to know them well, you know, and I realised what a great man Fred Gibson was, great man Kevin Bartlett, but always, I was lucky, he was always a terrific person for everybody, not just me. And Kevin had so much wealth of driving experience, you know, and when he shared it, you know, in those days you think, whoa, he was an open wheeler driver.
Still get that today.
Yep, and he's exactly the same today as he was when I was a little guy. So, you know, I was very lucky. I could see all these years go by, and the reason why I got into Super 100, Mark, so much was I ignored it for so long, but it was such a big part of my life, and I just, for some reason, never stopped to think about it until you and I got together on it.
Right.
Yeah. The beautiful thing is, you saw the back in those days, they were superstars. You know, you don't feel that so much today. But they were, these guys, no matter who you back, Ford, Holden, Moffat, Brock, they were superstars.
And they still are today.
They are. I mean, Brock, you know, he was the enemy for me, but always had time for you. Always had time. And that's what made all this really special.